Hello, my name is Elise O'Brien, and today I will be presenting my literature review for educational research entitled Engaging Kinesthetic Learners in the Classroom. I will begin by asking 3 research questions. First, what are the various learning styles and intelligences that affect the way students learn best? Second, what are possible benefits of utilizing kinesthetic movement within the classroom? And third, what are some creative ways that kinesthetic movement might be incorporated into classroom curriculum? Let's begin by defining what a learning style is. It is a range of instructional strategies through which students pursue the act of learning. The most popular types of learning styles include visual, auditory, tactile, and kinesthetic. Learning styles reflect how students learn, what students pay attention to, and how they remember. Multiple intelligences is a term coined by Howard Gardner in 1983. Prior to Gardner, it was thought that there was only one way to become intelligent, or to be intelligent. Now, there are 8 known ways, and we'll discuss them. Linguistic intelligence is the ability to effectively use words orally or in written form. Logical mathematical intelligence is the ability to work well with numbers and reason. Spatial intelligence is the ability to accurately perceive and visualize spatial concepts. Naturalist intelligence is the ability to recognize and categorize species found within one's environment. Bodily kinesthetic intelligence is the preference to use one's whole body to express concepts and using one's hands to produce a piece of work. Musical intelligence is the ability to express, discern, and transform musical forms. Interpersonal intelligence is the ability to read others and distinguish their feelings, intentions, and motivations. And finally, intrapersonal intelligence is the ability to truly know oneself and act accordingly. I researched low socioeconomic learners to discover why they struggle with achievement, and I found a few common factors. First, there was usually an absence of early education programs. For whatever reason, their parents either did not have the means to send them to preschool or they didn't understand the importance of a preschool program. These students entered kindergarten without any prior knowledge, and therefore they were already behind their peers when they began school. They also had less access to books or computers within the home. These students also often favor kinesthetic learning over other methods of instruction. And I did discover that their failure in school may be an ineffective delivery method. That may be the cause of it, and also a lack of engagement by the student. There are 2 forms of kinesthetic movement. The first is unrelated and the second is purposeful. Unrelated movement is just as it says. It's unrelated to the subject content of the lesson. This might occur if a teacher has students stand up and stretch between lessons, or perhaps she has them do jumping jacks to get their blood flowing, or maybe she tosses a ball around the classroom and lets students squeeze the ball just to give them something to play with. Purposeful movement, on the other hand, directly relates to the subject matter that's being taught. For example, a teacher might use tape to line up shapes on the floor and then have students walk around those shapes to learn the concept of perimeter. So why don't teachers use kinesthetic movement in the classroom? First of all, it's seen by several teachers as possibly the most difficult intelligence to incorporate into the classroom. We'll learn a little bit later that it's actually not that difficult, but in fact, teachers just are at a loss for knowing how. They've never done it before. They haven't seen it done. The traditional approach is the one that's used by default in most classrooms. Most teachers spend 70% of their class time talking, whether giving instructions to the children or lecturing on subject matter. And the teachers that do choose to engage in kinesthetic movement only use unrelated movement that fails to connect to the classroom curriculum, which, as we mentioned before, would be jumping jacks or tossing a ball around the classroom. Benefits of kinesthetic movement in the classroom. There are several. Improved comprehension of the material. Research shows that when students engage the material with their whole body, they actually learn it better. They remember it better instead of just memorizing facts. Improved socialization skills, which we'll discover are actually very key for our low SES learners. Improved emotional intelligence, improved assessment scores, improved classroom behavior, and improved student engagement. Those last two are specifically important to teachers who struggle to get students to stay in line and cooperate or engage with the material. They just throw in a few kinesthetic movements and they'll find that students comply fairly quickly. So is kinesthetic movement only valid for those students who prefer the kinesthetic intelligence? Absolutely not. In fact, it's beneficial for all types of learners, specifically English language learners who have kinesthetic movement involved within their lesson content have shown improved vocabulary, decoding skills, comprehension, and fluency. Those students who suffer from cognitive disabilities such as ADHD, ADD, learning disabilities, when they're given the chance to move, they become fabulous students, usually leaders in the classroom, leaders in the curriculum. They love it. And low SES, it fosters camaraderie amongst them, it improves their socialization skills, and it makes learning fun, which in turn makes them more engaged. So you're sold on the idea of kinesthetic movement in the classroom. How do you do it? What are some ideas for implementing it? Well, I'm glad you asked. Kinesthetic movement can be implemented in across subject matters, every subject, and we're going to look at a couple of ways to implement it into each different subject area. First, in social studies, costumes representing cultures from around the world can be passed out and given to students. As they're studying Japan, students could put on kimonos. As they're studying Mexico, they could wear sombreros. India, they could display saris. It's a great kinesthetic way to wrap themselves in the culture, literally, and get them more interested. Another idea is a game called Four Corners, where the teacher could label different corners of the classroom, north, south, east, and west. And as she's teaching those compass directions, students can get up from their desk and move to one of those points in the room. It visually helps them understand and engage. Kinesthetic movement's used in science as well. Instead of sitting and staring at textbooks showing pictures of nature, students can actually get outside in nature. They could observe trees and rocks and bugs and talk about all different types of things. Young learners could engage in songs that describe parts of the body, such as head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. If they're actually standing up and touching those parts of the body, they're a lot more likely to remember what part is the head and what part is the toes. Kinesthetic movement in language arts. Reader's theater is a fantastic way to engage students in literacy and to get them excited about it. It is a concept where students are given a play and they each take part in the play. Costumes could be passed out. Students could take the time making costumes and practicing their script at home, practicing their script in the classroom with a group of students, and then getting up and performing in front of the class. It makes learning fun, it makes reading fun, it improves reading comprehension skills, and it gets them active and engaged. Another option is to act out the meaning of new vocabulary words. You have students stand up and come up with some type of motion to remember the different words. They are much more likely on a test to remember the definition of each word, but then not only the test, but then afterwards, years later, students will come back and still remember the motion for that word and what it means. So the comprehension is just through the roof. Finally, kinesthetic movement in math. You think, math? Really? How can that be possible? Well, it is. For young learners, you could do something as simple as giving them cardboard numbers to wear around their neck and have them walk around the class and find the student whose number comes before theirs and the one who comes after theirs, and then form a line holding hands until all of the numbers line up. It's an easy way to teach sequential order. It can also be used with older students in algebra to represent steps in an equation. For instance, if a teacher is at the front of the room and she's working an equation, she can get the class engaged by saying, okay, what step comes next? And if it's time to multiply, the students can cross their arms in the shape of an X to symbol multiply. And if it's time to divide, they can put their arms out to the side horizontally to represent division. This method does two things. First of all, it engages the students within the learning. It makes it fun for them, and it keeps them on their toes. Secondly, it's an easy way for teachers to informally assess the crowd to see who is staying with her, who understands the next step, who's just watching their neighbor to see what the next step is. So in conclusion, we have learned several things. First of all, students possess a wide array of learning styles and intelligences, and teachers really should vary their method of teaching to accommodate all types of learners. Second, kinesthetic movement is extremely beneficial for all types of learners. You do not have to just possess the preference for that type of intelligence. It benefits all. And third, kinesthetic movement can be used across all disciplines, and it's actually not that hard to find ways to creatively use it in the classroom. This concludes my presentation. Thank you so much for watching.